Hi, good morning, everybody. Hi, Liz. Hi, Alex. Hi, Catherine. Oh, my words. Look at all those gorgeous smiling faces. Good morning, everybody. It is so lovely to see you, and a huge welcome to our September Includability Community Support Group. Really lovely to see you all. And as ever, if this is your first time with us on an Includability CSG, then a huge welcome to the family. It's absolutely wonderful to have you with us this morning. And of course, to all of our returning community, just brilliant to be by your side as always. If you're happy to do so, please do take a moment to introduce yourselves on the chat feed. This is your tribe, your community. So please do tell us about your world, what you do, your upcoming events, how we can support you and celebrate your business. We'd love to shout about the incredible work that you're doing and, of course, to help provide any support where you need us. And serving up a monthly treat as always, we have an inspirational lineup of three fabulous guest speakers for you across the next hour to help inspire you on your journey in creating a healthier and a more inclusive workplace culture for your business. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Elizabeth Cann, performance and leadership coach, the fabulous Hayley Price, head of people and operations at Includability Committed Employer CMA Recruitment Group, and the brilliant Kim Deverell-Lunn, People and Culture Manager at B Corp Certified PIP and Nut. And whilst our guest speakers are presenting, our very own James Bravato will be dropping Includability Gold into the chat feed, sharing links, upcoming news, engaging with our community like the little social butterfly that he is, and of course supporting with any questions that you might have during the CSG itself. But just before we introduce our first guest speaker, a huge thank you to everyone who was able to pop across to the beautiful Firefields X and Y building in London on Thursday night for what was our fourth Links and Drinks event for our includability community. It was also the night that we officially launched the Burnout Awareness Charter in partnership with the wonderful Katie Maycock, built really to support and educate employers and employees around the signs and the stages of burnout and also to contribute to its prevention. That charter is now live. It's ready for you to explore, and we would absolutely love for you to be involved. James is popping that link into the chat feed for you now, so please do check it out. Explore the benefits that the charter can offer you and for your team. And please remember, it is free, absolutely free for our committed employers for the first 12 months, and it's super financially accessible for any other organizations. So please do sign up. And of course, we're here to support you if there's anything that we can do to help. And I'm now delighted to introduce our very first guest speaker, the amazing Elizabeth Cann, former world ranked top 20 and England #1 badminton star, now incredibly busy supporting businesses as a high performance expert to enable professionals to achieve sustainable high performance within the workplace. Liz, it is so lovely to see you as always, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Dave. And hi, everybody. It's nice to see all your faces here. Just going to share my screen with you. Okay, can I just get a thumbs up that you can see my slides? Awesome, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, you may have noticed that we have a bit of a conundrum in the world today. So on one hand, we have so many opportunities, so many we can just at our fingertips, and it enables us to be more ambitious than ever before. But on the opposite side, we've got more exhaustion, more overwhelm, more chronic stress, more fatigue. So the question is, how do we take advantage of those opportunities and those ambitions that we maybe have without crashing and burning along the way? Well, that is really what leads me to this topic of sustainable high performance. I'm very passionate about high performance, having had a career in elite sport, but specifically about how we can be sustainable with that performance and achieving our goals. So I guess, first of all, we really need to explore the topic of what performance is. And performance really is an individual or team's ability to work towards and achieve a specific goal. And it's about the more ambitious the goal, the more we consider it to be high performance. But it also can be viewed in two different ways. So we've got, for example, in elite sport, where the athletes are aiming to be number one or trying to be one of the best. But in most professional settings, it's not necessarily about trying to be number one, but it's about trying to be the best that you can be on any given day. But it's worth noting that in either scenario, the more ambitious the goal, the more that's required from those trying to achieve it, and therefore the more pressure that can end up being put on those individuals. So it's useful. Let's have a look and alongside each other, peak performance, burnout, and then sustainable high performance and how they differ. With peak performance, think of that as this adrenaline fueled sprint. It's, when you see the footballer scoring the goal in the last minute, or when you see the sales team closing a huge goal, a huge deal right before the deadline. And it's a very powerful state. It's a very necessary state. It can be very, very useful, but it is not sustainable on its own. And the problem arises when we try to make that an everyday expectation. That's when we can start to lead to exhaustion. That's when we can lead to burnout. And just take a glance at this list here of some of the traits of peak performance. It's about that momentary brilliance almost. It's ideal when we've got a big event or something like that, but it's such high arousal, high adrenaline that we don't want to be in that state for too long. Because then let's take it on to burnout, when really it's an inevitable consequence of treating every day as though it's some kind of high performance event when we've got so many expectations on ourselves. And probably many of you, like myself, feel like you're juggling so many different things in life these days. And what can happen is when we don't have that time to recover, when we've got relentless pressure and that lack of recovery time, that can lead to breakdown in the end. And if we just have a look again at some of those traits of burnout, where you always feel like you're switched on, it becomes difficult to regulate your emotions, maybe a bit more snappy, focused on productivity. And sometimes we can almost feel like we're lacking purpose and we're lacking meaning as well, which is something that we can actually gain energy from. So that leads me to the topic that I'm very, very passionate about, which is that sustainable high performance. And think of this as a marathon. It's not a sprint. So that's where we're looking for this sustained excellence under pressure over an extended period of time. And I've added this extra bit in here about when it's also in alignment with an individual's purpose and values. I feel like that extra piece there really, the drive comes from within then, and that helps it to be really long term and really sustainable. If you think about the CEO who has led a company through years and years of growth, or those teams that consistently meet their targets month after month after month, that's when we're really noticing that sustainability in the high performance. And if you have a look at some of those traits there, I love the second one there about being identity driven. So we've got an inner drive as well as an external drive, and we're not just chasing something on the outside. And also that last one, there's one of my favorites about valuing the process just as much as the outcome. That makes the whole journey really important, and what you're doing day in, day out, really important. And we stop being so hyper focused on that end goal that's in front. So now let's go to the important piece about how we can achieve sustainable high performance. Well, there are three very important pillars to this. And we know that to be sustainable, it's not about pushing harder. It is about working smarter. And we can do that by building personal resilience, about creating this clear alignment, which I'm going to get into, and also about developing that high performance mindset. And these really are the building blocks that enable you to operate at a high level consistently, even when you're under pressure, but most importantly, without sacrificing your health and well-being. When I was a competitive athlete, I experienced success in two very different ways. In the earlier days, I was so hell-bent on this one specific goal. And it's like I pushed all the other important things to one side, including my well-being. I had that mindset of if I just work harder, surely I'll be more successful. And yes, sometimes I did become successful, but what was the cost and was it really worth it? Whereas once I learned to actually recognize that I'm a human being first, and that there are also other important things in life aside from that one ambitious goal that I might have, well, then that means everything becomes more balanced and that health and well-being becomes front and center of everything. So let's take a look at breaking down some of these pillars. So resilience. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about proactively managing your energy as well as your time. We can be very focused on how we're managing time, but managing your energy is just as important, if not more important. So we can do that by, first of all, making very clear distinctions between when it's time to work and when it's time to switch off. Having those clear boundaries between work and life so that you really give your body and your mind an opportunity to recharge and you can come back more fresh, more productive, more effective in the work then. Um, Take a close look at where your energy levels, when do they rise, when do they fall, and try and align those important work tasks in with those peak energy time slots. Now, one thing is very important, you must schedule in those well-being activities, whatever those are for you, whether it's training, whether it is meditating, just simply resting, socializing, whatever that is that helps you to rest, recover, recharge, and re-energize. If it's not scheduled in, it's very easy for it to be overlooked and pushed to one side. So take that piece very, very seriously. Remember, that is front and center. And also regulating the nervous system. I mean, this is a whole topic in and of itself. I can't go into too much of the details today because I've just got a very short couple of minutes left, really. But one thing you can do with this is, and you're probably all somewhat familiar with it, is breath work. That really helps to, if you just do pockets of it and recognize that we're all so busy that you're not going to have necessarily an hour in the middle of the day or half an hour in the middle of the day to do this. But if you take small pockets in between chunks of work to just do 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, that can just bring those stress levels down a notch. So we don't get more and more heightened by the end of the day, and then we're really struggling and wired by the end of the day. Let's take a look at alignment. So what I mean by alignment is, well, we can look at it in a couple of different ways. One way is connect your goal to your purpose, and so you have that real deeper meaning behind what you're doing. That way, those day-to-day tasks that you do, those things that feel a bit meaningless and menial and pointless and boring, you actually start to see the bigger picture with those. And you gain more enthusiasm around it. It might be that in the workplace you don't feel like you have much purpose in your job, but actually, if you can understand where your role fits into the larger mission of the company, then you can start to see how important your day-to-day work is in that situation. Also, I would encourage you to identify what your values are. What's really important to you? What are those driving forces for you day in, day out? For example, if it's important for you, relationships and connection, then maybe you make sure that you communicate with honesty and kindness in the day, and you're giving value and you're contributing. Therefore, you're able to be in integrity with your values on a day-to-day basis. And that creates this deeper sense of alignment in what you do on a day-to-day basis. And our last one is mindset mastery. It is very closely tied. How you think is very closely tied into your ability to succeed and how successful you can be. So, what are your beliefs? Are they in alignment with your bigger goal? Do you believe you can do it? Your self-talk. How do you speak to yourself when you don't achieve what you want to achieve? And that leads me into a very important piece is making sure you separate your professional output with your self-worth. All too often, I've experienced it myself and I see it a lot where they are very, very closely combined. They can be very tied in together, but remember, they're two very separate things. But I just want to leave you with one thing. It's just ultimately remembering that sustainable high performance is about learning to thrive rather than just survive. Give yourself permission to reject this constant hustle and grind. Sometimes we might need to hustle a little bit, but remembering that you are here to add value in the world and to build something that is lasting and sustainable and something that brings you joy. So thank you very much.
Oh my word, Liz. Amazing as ever. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful insights. You are incredible. James and I first met Liz at an event organized by our charitable partners, Switch the Play, earlier this year. We've actually got Matt, who's also our wellbeing verification partner, on the call, who's such an important part of that STP team. They are incredible. And Liz is such a wonderful trainer. She's an incredible facilitator and she helps organizations achieve extraordinary results. She's also, as you can clearly experience from listening to her, just one of the loveliest humans. So please do connect with her, and so with booking a virtual cuppa if your business requires support and guidance around achieving peak performance. Liz, you are wonderful. Thank you so much again, and it's been wonderful to have you with us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Liz. You're brilliant. Thank you. And also then following on from Liz's brilliant presentation on the subject of peak performance and celebrating the general brilliance of your businesses. Nominations for the 2025 Includability Awards are now open. We have the link to the nomination form in the chat feed for you coming up now. And we will, of course, be posting out across the socials over the coming days. But please, this is your chance to showcase the amazing work of the companies that you work for. We have multiple categories for our Includability Committed employers. You may enter as many categories as you wish, and it is free. To be eligible, you simply need to be an includability committed employer or on the pathway to achieving your committed employer verification. So you do have time to sign up and to get those nominations in. However, launching for this year's award, non-committed employers can apply for the 2025 Spirit Award, and we would love the opportunity to celebrate you. So please don't be shy. Nomination deadline day for all the awards is Friday, the 31st of October. Ready then for our online awards ceremony of Thursday, the 26th of November. So please do check out the link and get those nominations in. We'd love to get those there. And now for our second guest speaker, I'm delighted to introduce the brilliant Hayley Price, Head of People and Operations at CMA Recruitment Group, who are also one of our brilliant includability committed employers. I always find it a real privilege to learn from the journeys of our includability certified businesses, just listening really to how they're supporting their teams within the workplace. So I'm thrilled that we have Hayley with us this morning. Hayley, it's wonderful to have you with us as always. And the virtual floor is yours when you're ready.
Oh, thank you very much, Dave. Always a pleasure. And yeah, we've just learnt so much from includability so far. So I was very excited to share a few thoughts with all of you today. So I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully you will be able to see my slides. So if you could perhaps give me a thumbs up when they've come up. Brilliant. That's great. So we will make a start. So actually what I wanted to talk to all of you about today is a topic that is really, really, well, I guess just really topical for us at the moment as a recruitment agency, which is all around neurodiversity in the workplace. Such an important topic. We are seeing more and more neurodivergent individuals coming to us, registering, coming into the interview process and looking for that additional support moving into different businesses. And I think for us, yes, absolutely internally, it's really important to focus on, but we work with so many clients that actually there's a much bigger picture. And yeah, we are seeing a lot of people wanting that additional support right now. I thought it would be really nice to start with our D&I pledge at CMA. It's something that's really, really core to us, and we're really keen to not only celebrate, nurture that inclusive workplace, but also to continue to educate our clients, our candidates, other businesses, and challenge those biases, and just ultimately making people feel included and empowered in the work that they do. So I'm definitely on a mission, and as I say, includability has really helped us to learn a lot more, particularly with the partners on that journey. So when we're looking at neurodiversity, I mean, obviously that covers a wide range, but particularly the types of neurodiversity that we work with our candidates with is things like dyslexia, ADHD, ASD, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and Tourette's. So these are some of the key the key pieces that we're looking at and talking about today. Some of the stats really shock me. So obviously, and all of you probably know, estimated 1 in 7 people in the UK are neurodivergent. So we're talking about a really big population. 1 in 10 people are estimated to be dyslexic in the UK. 65% of neurodivergent employees fear discrimination from management, and we've done some surveys around this at CMA. So in itself, 55% of people fear discrimination from colleagues when considering disclosing their neurodiversity or neurodivergence. And there's just that real sort of lack of support available. 70% of people feel there's a stigma around requesting any workplace accommodations, which has actually recently gone up, which is, I feel, quite interesting. And 56% of those who request accommodations receive them. So we're looking at almost half of people who are requesting, actually going to their employers and saying, look, this is something I'd need you to put in place for me to be completely empowered and effective in my role. I'm doing the maths, 44% of employers are just simply not accommodating that. 68% of neurodivergent staff do not know what accommodations they're entitled to. And actually 22% of autistic adults are in any kind of employment in the UK. So there's just this huge need for a greater workplace inclusion. So what we are doing as an agency, obviously we look at all of this internally, but with our clients, we are continually speaking with them, running events, looking at how do we encourage neurodiversity friendly hiring. So that goes from right at the start of the process, how do we gain a wider range of candidates into our application pool, all the way through to how do we make those adjustments through the interview process, what do we look at in terms of onboarding and aftercare as well, because it just doesn't end when they're onboarded. So some things that we do really well in terms of advertising is we just make sure we are using that really clear jargon-free language in our adverts, just making that clear, just posting essential skills only in the requirements, just not putting people off of making that application. And also stating we are a neurodiversity friendly employer. And that's really massive because it just makes people think, oh, actually, this business is really going to consider my needs. Through into the application process, actually just asking that question when we're registering people, encouraging our clients to ask the question around what adjustments candidates need in that process. And sometimes it's just a really simple thing that makes them confident to continue with that application. Offering multiple formats of interviews. Can we do anything on video? Something written perhaps, face-to-face. So it just depends on that need. Obviously, we need to be measured and comparing candidates in a similar way. But if we're putting those different types of steps in, then that really helps. And also for some people, just sharing those clear steps and timescales ahead of time and sharing that process is really beneficial. When it comes to the actual interviews, some things that we've seen work really, really well with neurodivergent candidates is sharing those interview questions in advance. And that's something that's so easy to do, it's free to do. And we are starting to see more of with our clients now. Allowing extra time for tasks and assessments. A typical extra time amount would be something like 25% to make sure that neurodivergent candidates are not disadvantaged. Reducing sensory distractions. Where's the interview room? Is it next to the canteen at lunchtime? Is there noise? Is there building work? Where can we hold these interviews that's going to be a lack of sensory distractions for people? Not judging just purely on social skills, just making sure we've got a really good competency-based interview framework. We're testing different things at different stages. And actually, a couple of our clients recently have done a trial session or a trial day for candidates, which has been amazing because you can see that candidate bringing all their strengths into the workplace much more easily than you can in a scary sort of interview scenario. And again, when you're communicating offers, just do that. Be really clear, do that in different ways, follow up in writing, allow people extra time to go through the details, or even sit with them and read through the contract. That's going to be helpful. I'll come on to workplace adjustments in just a moment, because that's a much bigger topic. And with my HR hat on, obviously we do have a legal requirement as well to provide reasonable adjustments to some of these to some neurodivergent sort of conditions. So onboarding and support, when we are onboarding somebody into the business, again, a lot of this is about speaking to the individual and understanding their individual needs. So asking, would they like their disability to be disclosed, if it is a disability, with wider members of the business, or how comfortable are they with that? Is that going to be helpful? What would they like to do? Can we assign a buddy or a mentor to them? And also, just as a kind of as a sidestep outside of that individual, but are we providing training to staff in neurodiversity awareness? You know, things like lunch and learns, all kinds of ways that we can do that to increase that understanding. And then aftercare, really critical, this one, just scheduling those regular check-ins and seeing how somebody is getting on, and if they actually do have the adjustments that they need. I know I'm conscious of time. I will quickly cover workplace adjustment for neurodiversity, because again, there's just so many things that we can do. And, you know, obviously there are big corporate companies out there that have some of this covered, but even for the smaller businesses, and I know we have a lot of smaller businesses in this group, there's so much that we can do that's not expensive. It's really cost effective. Some things are completely free. So there's lots that anybody can impact. Again, I mentioned that environment and workspace, providing quiet rooms. Does somebody need noise cancelling headphones? There was some case law recently, actually, with Peloton, the cycling company, where one of their employees just could not cope with the level of noise. He was an instructor and couldn't cope with the level of noise in the class, and asked for some noise cancelling headphones. It was declined, and he won the tribunal. So, I mean, there's so much that can be done like that. Flexible lighting, different coloured writing paper, options to work remotely, hybrid. We've talked about recruitment and interviews. Technology and tools, again, there's so much out there now. Assistive software, speech-to-text screen readers, task management tools, particularly with things like ADHD, just a scheduling tool helping to prioritize can be really beneficial. That's something we've invested in here at CMA that's working really, really well. Communication, so again, provide that in different formats, clear, concise language, sharing meeting agendas in advance. We've talked a lot about flexibility. Sometimes it's just allowing that, perhaps core hours or ability to work from home when needed, regular breaks. There's so much, isn't there? There's so much that we can do. And I think the really key thing is to remember that not every neurodivergent employee is going to need all of this. The key thing is to have the conversation, ask, listen, and just personalize it. But if it's on the agenda, then that's so hugely beneficial. And we're really passionate about it, because I just think there's so much that businesses can do that's just not happening at the moment. So we're hoping that we can do our small bit to change some of those stats where possible. So bit of a whistle-stop tour, Dave. Sorry, I've rattled through it, but there's so much to cover. But thank you very much for having me. It's been really lovely to speak to you all.
Oh, Hayley, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. You're awesome. That was amazing. And what I love about this so much around CMA, what a journey. And for sharing not only the successes, the engagement across the last year, but also the challenges. Of course, we know that's where we grow and where we learn. I know that our committed employers are businesses of all gorgeous shapes and sizes, but I really feel that CMA is such a shining example. of an incredibly established SME with a highly committed, highly engaged senior leadership team. And that follows all the way through, totally committed to creating not only an excellent workplace culture for your team, but also the support that you provide for candidates when they're going through that process, which means the world to them, and getting them supported on the next steps of their career journey. So, Hayley, thank you so much. You're the best. And just a joy to be with you and to listen to you as always. So, thank you so much for all of your time.
Thank
Thank you. My word, it's been a wonderful CSG so far. We would now, of course, on to our next stage. We would love you to vote for a charitable project that we can support you on behalf this morning through our partnership with B1G1. As many of you will know, they're a brilliant global giving platform. They support hundreds of charitable projects, both in the UK and internationally, all positively impacting the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, as ever, you're doing an incredible thing for the planet simply by being awesome and just hanging out with us this morning. James is going to pop these options into the chat feed for you now. 3 amazing high impact community projects for you to choose from. And simply pop, whenever you're ready, the letter of your chosen project into the feed. So, A, B, or C. So, Project A is providing books to a child in emergency care in the UK. Project B is planting trees for forest protection in India. And Project C is providing shelter, repairs for a disadvantaged community in the Philippines. 3 wonderful projects. Please do cast your votes. And just before we introduce our final guest speaker, just a very gentle reminder that if you are yet to do so, please do join our includability community. So you can create your community platform logins at your leisure. You can head over to the includability website at any time that you should wish, and you can choose the membership options that you feel really works best for you. So for individual members, we have our free community plan, which will give you access to a range of really brilliant starter tools and great resources to support you in your role. It's free. So please, if that could be of interest, do sign up. It would be wonderful to have you on board with it. Alternatively, of course, you can access the full range of extensive tools and member benefits through the paid Community Plan Pro, just for the price really of a cup of coffee each month. And if you are an organization that perhaps could be interested in creating a more inclusive, sustainable, and a mentally healthy workplace culture, we have our Business Gateway membership, or of course, you can certify as an includability committed employer. We have a range of options to make it super financially accessible for you. So any questions or any information that you feel that you need, please don't hesitate to let us know. We'd be thrilled to support. And just a reminder, of course, that Billy, our new includability learning and training assistant, is now available on the includability website for free. It's to help provide great insights on workplace inclusion. So please, we'd love you to visit, have a play, tell us your thoughts, and that link will also be popped into the chat feed for you shortly so that you can access that when you are comfortable to do so. And finally, I am delighted to introduce the wonderful Kim Deverell-Lunn, People and Culture Manager at B Corp Certified Pip and Nut, and of course, one of our incredible includability ambassadors. Kim, it is so lovely to see you as always, and the virtual floor is yours when you are ready.
Thanks, Dave. It's so nice to see lots of familiar faces. I've not been to one of these for a little while as I've been settling into my new role at Pip and Nut. But yeah, it's really great to be here. And yeah, the other speakers, like, really thought-provoking, already kind of got me thinking. So yeah, a really great session. So thank you for having me. I don't have any slides, so you'll just have to look at my face and listen to me for the next few minutes. Yeah, so just to introduce myself, I'm the People and Culture Manager at Pip and Nut and Includability Ambassador. I joined Pip and Nut in January this year, and prior to that, I was at Ella's Kitchen, fellow B Corp and Includability committed employer for 6.5 years. I guess for me, in my role, and I guess working with the HR hat and being a people and culture lead, really, really important for me to continue to push the agenda for inclusive policies. For me, it's just so important that our team feels supported at work. They can bring the best version of themselves to work every day. And I think, shining a spotlight on inclusive policies and what they look like is what I'm here to talk about. Mainly focusing on kind of women's health policies, but always open to kind of chat more about other inclusive policies as well. These policies aren't just the right thing to do, but they're also pretty smart to do for your business. So especially when you're looking at things like employee retention or candidate attraction. So really interesting listening to Liz earlier. I think there's absolutely a direct link between high performing teams and the implementation of inclusive policies in the workplace. I think particularly that those that address the kind of unique health needs of women, such as policies on women's health, whether it's fertility or menopause. I think these policies aren't just a matter of kind of fairness or corporate responsibility, but they're super strategic as well. And I think they can really directly influence a company's bottom line as well as their competitive edge. And seeing kind of lots of businesses doing a lot more around their policies now really kind of makes it super, super competitive, and candidates have got a much, they're much more picky with the types of companies that they want to work for now. So I think it's kind of being really competitive and progressive. I think high performing teams are characterized by kind of innovation, but as well as that sort of psychological safety and really diverse perspectives. And I think inclusive policies really help foster these attributes. They make sure that all employees, regardless of their gender, their background, their personal circumstances, will feel supported and valued during their time at your companies. So in my experience over the last kind of 6 years, I've really championed more progressive policies. And I'm really excited to see that actually, some of these aren't that progressive anymore because more and more companies are doing them, but specific policies like the specific needs like fertility treatments, menstrual health is a really big one now. And also menopause support. We've seen that kind of being that agenda with talking about menopause coming through a lot in the last sort of 18 months, which is brilliant. And I think addressing these needs really sends a powerful message. It's like we care about your well-being. We want you to thrive and like not survive. Like you're actually going to be thriving whilst you're at work, whilst going through all of this stuff. I think this sense of belonging and support, really translates into kind of increased employee engagement, like that morale, that loyalty. People stay in companies when they feel like they're really supported. And also productivity as well, like going back to that kind of high performing team. I think if you're going through something in your personal life, quite often that will impact how you bring yourself to work and how you focus. And I think knowing that you've got a supportive employer or a policy that you can refer to really puts you at ease and kind of makes you feel super safe. So I've got some stats to share. So specifically, I guess, mainly because fertility is something really close to my heart, but 1 in 6 people now globally are affected by infertility. And I saw this fact, which was crazy. I feel very fortunate. I posted about this recently on my LinkedIn page whilst I was going through IVF treatment. I was at Ella's kitchen, and luckily I put the policy together. It wasn't just for myself, but obviously it was for other people. But I was really fortunate, and I'd sit in waiting rooms and know that I didn't have to take my laptop. I could switch off, and I'd see like other women and clearly rushing their appointment or answering emails and things like that. So yeah, very, very fortunate. But 69.5% of women actually take sick leave while going through treatment to hide the fact that they were having fertility treatment. 75% of people felt their fertility challenges strongly impacted their productivity at work, which I've kind of touched on. And interestingly, 47% of Gen Z individuals state that fertility support would be the most important factor for them when considering a new role. And actually, when I was looking to join a new brand, that was one thing that I was really looking for. when I was looking at kind of job descriptions and people's, companies' websites or LinkedIn page, I was like, I know I've got this situation, it's massive in my life. And that's why particularly a lot of women will stay in the same company for a really, really long time and not feel like they're able to progress in their career because they don't feel safe or, able to take that leap and go somewhere else because they just don't know whether they're going to be supported. So, if you do have progressive and inclusive policies in your business, talk about it, shout about it, make those policies really accessible so that when candidates are applying for a role, they feel safe and also, from a candidate attraction perspective, that's like super, super important. Um, Talking a lot more about menopause and periods in the office. It's still a bit of a taboo. I think the more we talk about it a little bit more openly, I think hopefully that will start being addressed a lot more. But quite shockingly, like 1 in 3 women experience severe reproductive or gynecological health problems. Something I've been looking into recently for Pip and Nut is around kind of a period policy. Period pain leads to an average of 9 days productivity a year to be lost, and like the list goes on. And I'm more than happy to share some of these policies that I've introduced to the companies that I've worked for, or even have a chat to people who are thinking about introducing these and don't really know where to start. I'm really fortunate that I've kind of gone from another B Corp who are very people first centric to Pip and Nut, who are really super progressive and want to be really, really inclusive. And recently this year, I introduced one of our newer policies, which has gone down really, really well for the team. So it doesn't just support, it supports women suffering from their periods and actually allowing period leave. So really progressive. But not only that, the policy is there to educate our teams and managers, creating a great awareness on what some women may experience during their periods and how this can impact them at work. And since introducing that, I've really, seen a massive shift in kind of people being a little bit more open, which is great to see. I think some women who really, really suffer have actually been able to have conversations with their manager, who is a man, and sometimes that can be a little bit awkward. But just by having this policy, certain people in the team have actually been able to say, do you know what, I'm really suffering right now, and be able to work from home or take some time off, and we've got hot water bottles and heat patches and things like that in the toilet. So just the more I think you can kind of break those taboos, I think it really, really helps make you feel safer at work and be more yourself. Obviously, all policies should be inclusive and try and support both men and women. And obviously, I said at the start of this, I'm kind of focusing on those women's health policies in particular. I think it's really interesting when you look at kind of the gender pay gap as well. So for women, I think the absence of these policies could potentially create a massive barrier to career progression and performance. I think if these issues aren't properly supported, can also have a massive impact on our businesses as well. So by having comprehensive support for these stages in life that we go through, ultimately we'll be able to retain top female talent. So women are more likely to stay with a company that supports their health needs, which ultimately will result in a reduction in recruitment and training costs, for example. We want to see an increased gender diversity in leadership. So when women can manage their health challenges without fear of career repercussions, they're more likely to advance into leadership roles. And then finally, like boosting team morale and psychological safety. So having a company openly address topics like this, like when I introduced that women's health policy and menopause policy, I could just almost like feel the room just kind of light up and breathe. And I think, as I said, from my own experience, kind of knowing that the business have got that fertility support, it normalizes these conversations, it reduces that stigma, and we can ultimately create a more open and supportive working environment. And I think ultimately policies that support women's health are not just about helping women. They're about building stronger, more resilient and more effective teams as well. I think they really empower women to perform at their best and contribute their full potential, which is really essential if we want to have high performing teams like Liz was talking about earlier. So yeah, it's something that I'm super, super passionate about and would talk to anyone about. So yeah, if you're interested in finding out about any of these policies, yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share them. You can lift and shift them. Our policies have got a lot of squirrel puns and nut puns, so you might want to change those a little bit. However, yeah, more than happy. I think like as well, like being in this group, like the power of sharing and B Corp using your voice as a force for good. Like I'm all about kind of sharing these policies and yeah, continuing to be super progressive. Yeah, that's about it for me.
Oh my word. Kim, thank you so much. Absolutely amazing as ever. And can I say, by the way, who doesn't love a squirrel pun? Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. You're wonderful. And it's critical that we're talking directly about the overwhelming difference that fertility support and established women's health policies create within the workplace. So thank you for sharing the incredible work that's happening at Pip and Nut, that we can be inspired and that we can learn from that. And as Kim beautifully said earlier, obviously took Ella's Kitchen through the process to become an includability committed employer all those years ago. She's a wonderful ambassador, obviously a qualified mental health first aider, a brilliant, compassionate D&I lead for the business, and just an all-round wonderful human. So Kim, thank you again so much. It's been wonderful listening to you today, and incredibly inspirational as always. And finally, my word, a hot date for your diaries. It's our next Includability Community Support Group. That will be happening on Wednesday, the 29th of October, same time, 10:30 a.m., where we'll be hosting three more fantastic guest speakers. That will actually be our final CSG of the year, would you believe, with our Includability Awards happening on Wednesday, the 26th of November. And of course, we'd absolutely love for you to join us. That registration link is popping into the chat feed for you now. James, thank you so much. So please do sign up and please do bring your friends and your teammates with you. We'd love to have you there. And that brings us to the end of our CSG this morning. My word, a huge thank you to our brilliant, brilliant guest speakers, to Liz, to Hayley and Kim for their generosity and sharing their insights, their knowledge and their experiences with us today. And a huge, huge thank you, of course, to every single one of you for joining us this morning. So until we will meet again in October, please look after each other. Huge love to you all and have an incredible rest of your week. Take good care, everyone.